Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for listening to our content, and please like and subscribe. Before we get to the podcast, if you have middle school or high school kids that play sports and you don't want to fundraise like me, we got you covered. My buddy Chris Carneal owns Booster. Chris?
We help schools and sports teams raise funds in a super fun and engaging way. In fact, the last 22 years, we've raised $750 million, and we can't wait to help you. Choose booster.com.
Welcome back to Pure Athlete. I'm Jeff Francoeur along with Britt Lee and Brad Williams, and we're excited about today's guest. Won a Super Bowl with the Bucs in 2020, has kicked for 14 years, and as I like to say, as a Clemson fan, went to that other school in South Carolina for a little bit. But Ryan Succop, thanks for joining us today, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you, guys. This is great to be with y'all. I'm excited about it.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you.
Before we get going and talking about youth sports and your journey a little bit, kind of tell us about what you've been up to and how your family is.
Yeah, we've been doing well. We're living here in Nashville. This is home. In the last week or so, actually, we were out at a dude ranch in Colorado and doing the horse riding thing, doing the cowboy and cowgirl thing, which was really a lot of fun, and got to put the kids to work a little bit. So we had a great time out there with some great families, some really close friends of ours, and it was a great week. So that's kind of what we've been doing, and now we're getting into that stretch where training camp's getting ready to get going here in another month and a half. So starting to kick a little more. We're get the leg going, and just getting ready for another season, hopefully.
Man, you should have trained a little bit and kicked out there in Colorado, get that extra 10 yards.
Yeah, that's it's a little bit like fool's gold out there. I've played in Denver enough, and it's kind of like when you go to the golf course and you hit off those mats. You feel like, man, I can't miss one out here. So yeah, a little fool's gold out there. But you're right. That would have been a great place to swing the leg a little bit.
Well, before we get going, too, I always ask this question to all our athletes that come on, and I want you to give us your best youth sports memory.
Yeah. Okay. Does high school sports count, or are we talking
absolutely?
before?
Yeah, high school too.
Yeah, I think we won a state championship in soccer and won a state championship in golf in high school. Both of those were pretty cool. But I'll never forget my freshman year. Probably it was in the game. It was in the state semifinal game. I was a freshman. We went into a penalty kick shootout, and I think I scored the last goal, the fifth. I was the fifth shooter and scored the winning goal to go to the state championship. So that was, as a freshman, that was a pretty special memory that I'll never forget.
That's cool. So Ryan, let's go back to that youth era. And obviously you just said you played golf, as with many kickers, you're a soccer player. Tell us what all you played growing up and kind of walk us through your development into finally ending up as a football player.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, people always ask me, like, how did I get into football? How long have I been playing football? And the answer is kind of ironic. I played everything except football as a kid growing up. So I played basketball, I played baseball, I played soccer, I played golf, and I never played football until I got to high school. And actually, this is kind of an interesting story, but my soccer, I grew up in North Carolina, and soccer and football were both in the fall in North Carolina. And I was trying out for the soccer team that summer before school started. And that whole summer, the soccer coach was like, "Hey, you ought to go kick the football. Like, you really need to go think about doing this. I think it could be a good opportunity for you." And for the longest time, I was like, "Man, I'm good. Like, I'm playing basketball in the winter. I got baseball, golf coming up in the spring. Like, I got enough." And finally, the week of the first football game, he was like, "Hey, I talked to the coaches. Like, I'm not letting you practice soccer today. You're going to football." And so I went down to football practice on a Tuesday, and messed around, kicked a little bit, and they said, "Hey, we'll see you on Friday night." And so that's how I got into it. And I'll never forget, I went to my first football game on Friday night. It was a varsity game, and I get to the locker room, a couple hours before with the team and everything, and I'm looking at all these pads, and I'm literally asking my buddy, I'm like, "I've never put these pads on before. Like, you got hip pads, knee pads, thigh pads, butt pads." I'm like, "Where does all this stuff go?" It's and so I'm literally asking my buddy, "Hey, where's all this stuff go?" So anyway, that's how I fell into it and ended up having a lot of fun with it. But it's just kind of funny how it works out.
So Ryan, how many actual field goals, or I guess like football kicks, field goals or PATs, did you attempt before you put on the pads that first football game? Like, how many times are you going out to a field just to kick around for fun?
Not many. I had kind of messed around. You'd be messing around and you see a football and be like, oh, let's see how far I can kick this thing. And so not a ton, but it was one of those things that I knew that God had kind of given me some ability to kick a soccer ball really hard, really far, and so it was a pretty natural transition, I would say. And it's just something that honestly, like once I started doing it, I was like, this is really fun. It was just fun, and I just enjoyed working at it, and just trying to see how far you can kick something was interesting to me. So I kind of fell into it from there, and was really blessed to get to do it for a long time after that.
Was soccer your favorite sport growing up though?
Probably not. I loved baseball and I loved basketball. I would say those were probably like the two that I remember in the summers playing all the travel baseball, in the winters doing all day AU basketball, doing all that stuff. And, man, I loved it. There was nothing, I look back on it and there's probably nothing more fun than like middle school basketball. Just getting to
Oh
play,
yeah.
middle school basketball was like as good as it gets, man. Those were probably my two favorite that I had the most fun with. But, uh, getting into high school and getting to be on the football team and all that stuff, I kind of fell in love with that as well.
Well, looking on your Instagram site, looks like you're still playing a little golf these days.
Yeah, love to play golf. Golf that's one of those games that I'm so glad I played as a young kid because it's something that you can do really for the rest of your life, and have made a lot of great friendships, a lot of great relationships on the golf course, and it's something I really really enjoy. And you can go compete at it. I love to compete, and you can do that for a long time. So I think it's a great game.
100%. When I retired, I tell people all the time, that's all I have left is golf to compete. I got nothing else to compete, but golf you can.
No doubt, no doubt. That's it's a great game. You can always figure out a way to get a game out of it, no matter who you're playing with, and I love it.
I keep telling you guys, pickleball is pretty competitive.
You got to be at least 50 to play pickleball, Brett.
Oh goodness.
I'm telling you, I have met so many people that are getting into pickleball, and I was literally talking about it with somebody yesterday how much they love it. So maybe that'll be next. We'll see.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Ryan, going back to high school and your coach, picked you out and said, hey, you ought to go try out for the football team. I'm just thinking about high school kids that are playing soccer today. Did he pick you because you had the strongest leg on the soccer team?
Yeah, I think so. And actually, interestingly enough, one of the details that I left out is that my soccer coach, he was a guy named Steve Morgan, and his son was about 4 or 5 years older than me, and his son had actually done the same thing. He was like an all-state soccer player, really, really good, and his son ended up kicking for the football team as well. And I think he ended up having offers to go do both, to go play soccer in college and then also to go kick in college. And so I think he probably saw a little bit of similarity with me with what his boy had gone through, 5, 6 years before I'd gotten there. And so it was one of those things you look back on, and I'm just so grateful that, really he had my best interest at heart. When I really think about that, like he could have kept me all to the soccer team, all to himself. But he knew I had an opportunity there, and he was great. For 4 years, he would let me go down and, miss soccer practice on a day here or there to go kick for the football team, whatever it was. And that's something I'm super grateful for.
Boy, that's a great message to high school coaches everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
No doubt. Like, how competitive it can be and all these different things. But, man, like I said, he was looking out for me. And I think that's something I will try to do that for my kids, obviously. And if I, end up coaching and all that stuff, like that's something that I'll keep with me for forever.
You started kicking your ninth grade year, Ryan. At what point did you kind of start to figure out, like, man, I might have a chance to do this at the next level?
Yeah, I would say I kind of knew within within the first, like, this sounds crazy, but within like the first couple of weeks, because I remember being in ninth grade and going out and like, I didn't necessarily know where it was going in ninth grade, but like I knew that I could kick it, like I knew I could kick it like 55, 60 yards, and I knew that was
Wow.
probably, not very normal
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
and so I kind of knew, really after my freshman year, I was like, okay, if I want to do this, I think I can get really good at this. And so, like I said, I think it was a pretty natural transition from striking a soccer ball, and then it was from that point, it was just kind of figuring out how to get more consistent, how to, kind of refine that craft, that skill, so to speak.
So, Ryan, take us through kind of the recruiting journey that you went on there in North Carolina, and kind of what it's like as a kicker, kind of going through that recruiting process.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. Where I grew up in North Carolina, there were so many good schools all within like a 3 hour drive. You had all the North Carolina schools. You had South Carolina. I won't mention that small school in the upstate. But interestingly enough, my wife is from Easley, which is about 15 minutes
Oh
from Clemson, so
yeah.
we know it. We know that area well. But anyway, there were just a ton of great schools. Tennessee, Virginia. All these schools were super close, and it was pretty neat getting to be recruited by a lot of those schools and taking the visits and. For me, it really just came down to which school did I have the best opportunity to play at a young age or early on in my career in college, and so I took a visit down to South Carolina. Actually, went to a South Carolina Georgia game, and it was just the atmosphere, the campus. I mean, it was unbelievable, and I was like, I want to do this. Like, I want to be able to play in these big games, and that was getting to play at Williams Brice on Saturday nights in the SEC is something that is awesome. It's the energy, the atmosphere. It was just incredible. So when I went to that game, I was like, this is where I want to go. And sure enough, that's how it worked out.
So let's go to the stadium there on a Saturday night, because you said it's awesome, but it's also for a kicker. I mean, the pressure that you guys are under when you come down to the end of a game. How do you get to a point where you can handle that pressure, handle the biggest moments, and do what you do in practice?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'll be honest. I think that's something. There are a ton of guys that I have seen over my career that are probably more talented than I am. They probably have a stronger leg, or they may be able to hit a bigger, higher ball. But I think one of the things that separates guys from being able to do it, obviously, is hey, can they do it? When the lights are on, can they do it in the big situations? For me, that answer is pretty simple. It's my faith. It's one of the things that I really grew in as a freshman in college was, my faith. And I think one of the verses that always stands out is Philippians 4:6. Don't worry about anything, but in everything through prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. Let the peace of God transcend your heart. And so, when I think about that, I always just go back to like, hey, the Lord doesn't want me to be nervous. He wants me to trust Him. And when I can do that, when I can do those things, it kind of takes the pressure off me. It allows me to go out and be free. It allows me to go out and not worry about all these external stuff, what people might think if I miss, all this other stuff. And that's something that has helped me throughout my entire career. And that's one of the things I'm most thankful for is the way that I've been able to grow as a man, as a person in my faith. Being put in hard, difficult situations is something that after a while you kind of want to be in those situations because it's cool to see what the Lord can do.
Man, that's awesome, Ryan. I love that. And my next question was gonna be, every kicker does miss sometimes in the big situations, and how do you recover from that? And I'm gonna guess your faith, plays a big part in that as well.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that has been really cool for me over the course of my career is like even coming into my first couple of years in the league, um, even it was so easy. I would always say I don't want to get wrapped up and be consumed by hey the position I play or what I'm doing. It's one thing to say that; it's another thing to actually live that out. And I think as I've had a family, had kids, you really start to have things that are more important to you in your life than the ball that you play. Like I know Jeff, you got 4 kids. You probably felt that throughout your career, but
Oh yeah.
that's something like that balance is just something that like I started having my best years in the league once I started having kids because it was like, man, I would go play and I'd work at it. I'd bust my tail when I was at work, but then when it was over, it was like, hey, I'm going to pour into my kids. They're pouring into me, and like that balance is something that is pretty cool and pretty special.
You said something that was great. Now that you have your own kids, and eventually, when you're fully done, you'll be coaching. Trust me, because that's all I
Yeah,
do now. Is I'm at park after park, but
yeah.
and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But you think about it for you, like you go through. We talk about mental toughness and kicking and finding that. But what kind of role did your parents play? Because we talk a lot about to the athletes on here. We talk a lot to the coaches. But how were your parents? Taking you everywhere, shifting you. What did that dynamic look like for you?
Yeah, that was huge for me, and my parents were amazing. They sacrificed a lot to take me to games on the weekends, travel ball, whether it be baseball or soccer or whatever it was. At the time, they were always committed, and they always took me to practices and took me to games, and a lot of it was an hour and a half away on a Saturday morning. Like some of that stuff probably doesn't sound that appealing to a lot of people, but they were great. And at the same time, I think one of the things I really appreciated is like they sort of allowed me as much as I wanted to do it, they would allow me to do it and they would support it. But at the same time, it wasn't like they were twisting my arm to go do it. And I think that,
Yeah.
I think that every kid is different. Some kids are they want to do it all the time, and some kids maybe not. And I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about how my parents handled it is like, hey, as much as you want to do it, we'll let you do it. But we're not going to force you to do it type of thing. And so I think I always had fun playing. I think I always had fun playing because there wasn't that pressure that, they didn't necessarily put a ton of emphasis on, oh, we have to win this or you have to do this. It was more like, hey, we're going to show up, we're going to do our best, and we're going to enjoy it either way. So my parents were a huge part of that.
What was their reaction when you came home and told them you wanted to play football?
It was interesting. I think because I had just never done it. I had never
Yeah.
played, and I think my mom was like a little hesitant because she just thinks of football as being like this rough, tough sport. And I'm like, Mom, don't worry. Like my position's going to be a little bit different. Like I'm not going to be out there getting hit all the time. And it was funny because my dad was a big football fan and had he played growing up and all that, but my mom like knew nothing about it. And so the first like year or two of high school, she's trying to figure out, all right, this is third down. So what's this mean if they don't? What are first downs? What are we going? All this stuff. And it's funny now because you look at her and she loves the game. She watches it all the time. She knows what's going on. But that was certainly funny those first year or two.
Well, we talk about, punting and kicking off. Can you remember a time where you just got your bell wrong? I mean, you just got laid out.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget. It was down. We were playing at LSU, and I was punting this year, and so we had hit a punt, and I think Trenton Holiday was the returner who ended up being in the league for a long time. He was
Fly, yeah.
electric. He was a little dude. Well, I hit a punt, and I out-punted my coverage a little bit. It was a little too far, and they end up getting this big set up this wall return, and it's me, and Trenton's running at me full speed, and I'm running down the field. I'm trying to kind of use the sideline, the 12th man, so to speak, and so I am sprinting to the sideline, and they say you got to keep your head on a swivel. I had not learned that lesson yet, and so I am on a dead sprint trying to get over to the sideline, and I get absolutely blindsided. It was one of those like he hit me in the chest. I'm horizontal with the ground, and I just landed on my back. And it was like, I'll never forget, happened right in front of the LSU bench, and all I hear is the whole LSU team with this like big oh, and then this dude's like standing over me flexing, and I'm like, oh, this hurts. And so anyway, yeah, I'll never forget that. But I think the guy that hit me, I'm pretty sure it was Ali Highsmith. I think that's who got me. He was a linebacker, ended up getting drafted pretty high. But dude, that hurt. And I've had a
And
couple of those since then.
I was going to say, I bet your teammates gave you a little heck after that too, man.
Oh man, yeah. Actually, Coach Spurrier, I'll never forget. Coach Spurrier was like, he was even on Monday after the game. He was like checking on me. He was like, Ryan, are you sure you're okay? He's like, that was like one of the nastiest hits I've ever seen, type of thing. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. But it was, yeah, it hurt.
So let's talk about Coach Spurrier for a second. Do you have any good Spurrier stories of your time at South Carolina in terms of? I mean, did he treat you differently because you were a kicker, or did he feel like you were kind of, you felt like he treated you like everybody else, or you share some stories about the old ball coach?
Oh yeah, no, Coach Spurrier was great. Coach Spurrier was awesome, man. He was one of those guys. He would tell you exactly how it was, and so you knew where you stood with him. I really respected that. That could probably rub some guys the wrong way, but like I loved it because you knew exactly where you stood. Whatever he was thinking, he was going to say, and half the time it comes out just absolutely hilarious because you're like, I cannot believe this guy just said this, and but it was great. And as far as kicking, one of the things, just to ask for a story. We would always kick field goals at the beginning of practice. Like that would be the first period. And so we'd always be out there warming up 25, 30 minutes before practice would start. And Coach Spurrier would love to come out there, and there wouldn't be any media out there yet. So he'd come out there, he'd take his shirt off. He'd be out there just his little khaki shorts on, coming straight from the golf course. And he's like, yeah, gotta get the vitamin D, boys. And so he'd be out there watching us kick for 20 minutes with his shirt off. And that was pretty regular. That happened a lot. So just being around him was great. He was awesome to play for.
Speaking of coaches, if you think back to youth sports and high school sports, we always kind of like to hear, from our guest about a great coach that they had that sticks out in your memory and what made them a great coach.
Yeah, I think for me it would probably be I've had several of them. I think the one that really stands out as far as youth sports would be my freshman year, the soccer coach I told you about, Steve Morgan, just because he cared more about me than he did a result on soccer game type of thing. And so I think that's what stands out to me. And, also the same type of thing where, there's more important things to him than sports, right? It's his family, it's his faith, it's, the relationships, it's the things that really matter. And yes, the sports are a big part of that. But I think he had that proper perspective. And I think that's something where when you have that, you can really pour into kids and be a role model and be a leader and kind of show them how you want to do things. So I think for me, it would be him because of those things.
Your faith you talked about was such a big part, and everybody's going to have the high moments and the low moments in your career. And for you, winning a Super Bowl, making game-winning kicks, but besides faith, was there mental toughness you had to develop too as a kicker, though, to be able to say, you know what, I just missed a field goal. I'm going to get them later. How did did you develop that over time as a kicker?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you sort of hit the nail on the head. Like there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows, and man, I've gone through them all. I've had like those mountaintop experiences, and I've had those valleys, man. And I think for me, one of the things you mentioned winning the Super Bowl in 2020. What you didn't mention is that the year before that, I had knee surgery in Tennessee. I had just signed a nice deal here in Tennessee. My first 6 years here had been just so good. Like things were going so well on the field, in the community, all the things, and then end up having a little hiccup, have to get my knee cleaned out, and just didn't bounce back the way I wanted to. Had a really tough season in 19. Was on IR, played 5 or 6 games, didn't go the way I wanted it to. Ended the season on IR, and man, that was a situation where there was like a real gut check. Like I had to really, after I got released, obviously, in the NFL, when you get hurt, you get injured. The NFL is not for
Yeah,
long, man.
not for long.
Not for long. So I get cut at the end of that season, and COVID hits, and I'm sitting there going, man, like, is this it? I've played 11 years, and one of the things that was like, even once I got healthy and came back and was kicking the ball great that summer, had a great workout, all those things. Like one of the things that I had, that hurdle that I had to get over was like, hey, the confidence was like, hey, I was questioning myself, like, dude, do I still have this? Like what I'd gone through the year before that, kicking so poorly, how humiliating that was. Like, do I still have it? And that was something that I had to like really work through and really fight, because it was a battle. It was a battle mentally of, hey, can I get back out there and still perform at the level that I have, for the first 10 years. And I think one of the things that really helped me with that was just getting back out there, getting put in practice, and, the desire to go do it, the desire to go keep playing. So it's a battle I think probably every athlete faces. You're going to go through adversity. You're going to have tough times. And it's, how are you going to respond to it is something that is going to determine a lot of your career.
Ryan, we love to ask this question of our athletes that we have on here. Can you take us kind of through, I guess from an NFL experience standpoint, take us through kind of your typical game day, kind of your routine that you go through before a game to get ready and kind of pregame and things like that?
Yeah. So particularly the last like 3 years, game day for me, I would go get some tissue work done. So one of the things that was awesome about being down in Tampa was with Tom, he had Alex Guerrero there taking care of everybody.
Yeah.
And Alex is his guy, and he was just incredible. So I would get to the stadium early because I wanted to get enough time with Alex before Tom came in. And so I would get there, almost 4 hours early, go in, get, 30, 45 minutes of tissue work, and I would be feeling awesome. So that I would get there nice and early, get my tissue work done, go through, then start getting into the active warm up stuff, start moving around. And then for me, like we have to be done. We kick field goals about an hour and 15 minutes before kickoff. And I kick for about 10, 12 minutes, see what the wind's doing, check the field conditions, all those things. But I got to be done, because then once the teams come out, I can't be in the way. So game day is long. So you got to be warmed up an hour and 20 minutes before the game, basically. And then you have to stay warm, obviously, throughout the whole game. So game day actually is a long day for me. And that's something that you have to kind of figure out how to navigate and how to make sure that you're ready, while at the same time conserving energy, so that, in the fourth quarter, you're still feeling good, still ready to hit a big kick if you need to.
Hey Ryan, let's talk about Brady for a second. From a fan perspective, from an outside in perspective, you look at a Brady and he comes to the Bucs, and it looks like, in addition to talent, what he really brings them is belief. Just seems like his belief just permeates the whole team. Is that what it's like from the inside? Tell us a little bit about that.
There's no question. There's a reason that Tom is the greatest to ever play. And obviously he's an incredibly talented player. but it's also who he is as a person, man. He's the best leader that I have ever seen. He brings out the best in everybody. And it's one of those things where, like, because of his experience, because of all the things that he's accomplished, and not only that, but it's the way that he treats everybody. That's one of the things, like, I was so impressed with, is that, like, he made everyone feel so valued, whether you were the guy in the equipment room folding towels, whether you were a trainer, a strength coach, whatever it was. Like, he made you feel so important. And I'll give you a quick example. I was talking about Alex earlier. I would get to the game early on game days. And I remember, like, one of the first times this happened, and Tom comes in, and I'm trying to hop off that table as quick as I can, because the last thing I want to do is be in Tom's way and, mess up his pregame routine. And Tom literally looks, he's like, no, dude. He's like, you guys finish up. Like, take your time. He's like, hey, we're going to need you today. Like, we're going to need you in this game. Like, I need you feeling good. And for me, that was one of those things where I was like, I just thought that I was so impressed by that, because he just makes every single person feel valued, no matter what your role is, whatever your position is. But man, he's an incredible leader, an incredible teammate. And it's something I'm just so grateful that I got to experience that firsthand, because I just learned so many lessons from him, getting to play with him for the last 3 years. And I think I'll take that with me for a long time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We had Dan Orlovsky on a month or so ago, and he talked about Peyton Manning and the same thing of how he just made everybody feel valued, across the whole team. So that's a neat.
There's no doubt. Like, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to say is, like, and this was true for me. Like, as soon as I got down there, playing with Tom, I wanted it's almost like that feeling when you're a little kid, like, you don't want to disappoint your dad, like, you don't want to let your dad down. That's how it is with Tom. It's like, dude, I don't want to be the one that messes this up because of how Tom's treating everybody, because he's been so good to us, because he's here to win, to do this the right way. And so you don't want to be the one that messes it up. And so it just elevates every single teammate's game, gets elevated. And that's something that, like, when you have a leader like that, when you have a dude like that is calling the shots, man, that's one of the big reasons. Well, that's probably the reason we were able to win the Super Bowl that year, was in all the success that we've had the last 3 years, because of how he is and just who he is.
We're like that with Jeff. Jeff's kind of our Tom Brady on this show. We just don't want to disappoint him. I mean, that's just one of those things. And he treats
I got
us.
to keep these guys straight.
I mean, he treats us. Even though he's a former pro athlete, he treats us really well.
We talk about coaches and their ability to motivate and do it. Who are one or two of the coaches that you played for outside of, like, high school, but in college, pro? And it doesn't have to be head coaches, but guys that were able to get the best out of you. And what did they do? Because now that you got kids of your own, it's kind of like, what kind of coach do you want to be for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been blessed to play for a lot of great coaches. I think, one of the ones is Steve Hoffman. He comes to mind. He was the special teams coach that drafted me in Kansas City. Man, he poured into me. He, just worked with me the whole time, and that's something that had a big impact on me. I think about, Mike Vrabel here in Tennessee, a guy I actually played with in Kansas City. We were teammates. 10 years later, he was my head coach. And if you ever spend any time around Braves, like, he just has this mentality. He has this, like, personality that just gets the best out of everybody. And then, thirdly, Bruce Arians down in Tampa. Like, one of the things I loved about BA was first of all, he really, like, he trusted veteran guys. And so at that point in my career, it was years 12, 13, whatever it was, 14, like, he trusted me and he showed trust in me. Now, that's great as long as you take care of business on Sunday. And if you took care of business on Sunday, everything was good. And if you didn't take care of business, BA was going to absolutely rip you. And that's something I respect. That, like, hey, he held you accountable. He whatever it was, like, you're going to be held accountable, but at the same time, he was going to let you do your thing. And so I think that was, one of the reasons we had so much success. So all those guys come to mind.
Hey, Ryan, just building on that NFL experience here, what's your best NFL moment?
Best NFL moment. Yeah, winning the Super Bowl is hard to top. Like, getting to celebrate with your teammates and your family, doing the confetti angels on the field on our home stadium. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was a really special moment. I think about the week before that. Personally, we were playing in Lambeau in the NFC Championship, and had a big kick late in the fourth quarter to kind of put the game away. So that one is one that I'll never forget. And then I'll rewind a little bit before that. I used to play for the Chiefs. I got cut by the Chiefs, and then here playing in Tennessee with the Titans, we're playing Tennessee in Kansas City. It was 0 degrees. It was the coldest game in Arrowhead history. I think the wind chill was like 15 below. I don't even think I went past like 48 yards in warmups because you're just kicking a brick. And man, I had a 53-yarder to with no time left to win the game. So that was one that just like stands out because it was my old team, the conditions, like all the things. That was just awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is that? What is that like kicking a football in 0 degrees? I mean,
Oh
is it
man,
miserable?
it's miserable. Like it is. But you know what? Thankfully, like I'll be honest, the technology nowadays, like the heaters that they have on the sidelines,
Yeah,
you can stay by those things, and it's still miserable, yes, but it's not as miserable as it probably would have been like 25, 30 years ago when you didn't have that stuff. So it's miserable, but it's one of those things. Like when I look back on it, like some of my favorite memories are those just freezing cold games where you just kind of laugh about like how awful it was.
God.
But anyway.
Well, finishing up here with Ryan Succop, we got a couple questions that we like to kind of ask towards the end, and one would be a bunch of athletes watching this. What's your best advice for them? Whether you're talking football, trying to be a kicker, or it's a girl trying to make a softball team, what is your advice to these young athletes as they grow?
Yeah, I would say my advice to the young athletes is number one, if it's something that you enjoy and that you really love doing, like don't be afraid to work at it and don't be afraid to have big dreams, big goals. Like coming up, I probably never thought that I would have gotten to play for 14 years. But like the fact that I still had those thoughts even early on in high school, like that's okay to have big dreams, and it's even better to go work at it. So don't worry about what other people say. Like go and put the work in, and if it's something that you enjoy, go work at it, man. Go try to be great, and don't worry about what other people say because I think that's something that can hold a lot of people back.
What advice would you give to parents of young athletes in terms of as they're kind of like you're doing, you're starting this journey? That's something that we as Britt and I who've done it a long time. You mess up more than you do well at. But what advice do you give to parents of youth athletes?
Yeah, I would say the advice I would give to young athletes, like one of the things that, and I kind of help out coaching a lot of my son's teams and even my daughter's little soccer team. But one of the things, a couple of things we always talk about is, hey, we're going to have fun today. We're going to be a great teammate. We're going to encourage our teammates, right? We're going to be great teammates, great friends. And then we're going to listen to our coaches. And I think those are three great lessons that it can resonate with every kid. You can make it a great experience. And I think when you do that like that, there's a lot of amazing lessons that can be taught through youth sports. It's more than just playing sports. You learn sportsmanship. You learn to compete. You learn to work hard. You learn to be a great friend, to be a great teammate, to trust people. There's just so many great things that come from playing youth sports, and so those are the things that we try to emphasize when we're coaching our kids, and hopefully that's something that will pay off, and they'll be able to have a great experience through doing that.
Yeah, thank you, man. Last question. When you look at it, your parents were such a huge part of your journey and getting to where. What are a couple traits that they instilled in you that you want to instill in your own kids?
Yeah, I would say, one of the things that really helped me, obviously they taught me to work hard, whether that's in sports or whether that's in life. There was that idea of a work ethic. I saw the way that my dad went to work every day. I saw all the things that my mom did at home, making sure the family was running smoothly, all those things. So hard work is one of them. Secondly, I would say humility. They always talked about humility, whether we were, won a big game, lost a big game, whatever it was. There was always, that idea of, hey, we're going to do this the right way. We're going to do this with humility. And so those are the two things that like really stand out to me would probably be the work ethic and the humility part of it.
Man, that was awesome. Well, guys, I know we are so thankful you joined us today. I know you got the family, you're going to start kicking, but when you're done, know that there's some golf in Atlanta if you're ever down here and want to play.
Yeah, no, I've got a couple of courses down there on my list, so maybe we'll get out and tee it up sometime.
We'll get you out to Peachtree. I know you're looking. I'm sure that's one of them down there.
I have heard a lot about Peachtree, so that would be a blast.
Ryan, thanks so much for being on with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, Ryan, thank you very much, buddy.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Y'all be good.
Thanks, bud. Hey, guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for checking out Pure Athlete, and subscribe to our channel on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you go to listen to our podcast.